not to offend anybody, but they're still searching for Madeleine McCann, my guy. But you report a black person missing and it's give it a few seconds, like they'll show up, don't worry. It's dismissal. The abuse being thrown at Aya Nakamura because she has created her own metrics of how she defines herself and it doesn't match up with your, like, there's no need for that. Depending on who the recipient of the racism is, it's always up for debate. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to It's That Deep, the podcast. My name is IG-feyisara. I am your host, and this is a podcast where everything is that deep. I know you said it with me. I know you did. Everything is that deep here, from politics to pop culture to reality TV to current affairs. It is that deep. We unpack some of the week's biggest stories in news and we try to make sense of what the hell they mean for who we are as people and where we are as a society. And I try to do my best with that every single week. So thank you for joining me for another episode. I'm trying to keep my energy high and trying to be like, yay, happy. And I am happy, but if you know anything about what this week has been, particularly here in Britain, you know that it has been an incredibly exhausting, emotional and frustrating week. Those are the three words I would use to really describe what I have seen unfold before my eyes. And we're going to get into all of it in this episode. But yeah, I'm supposed to be happy. I'm the host of a podcast, but you know, sometimes the real is the real, and it's been a crap week, particularly for black women in this country this week. And so at this point, I actually want to offer a trigger warning of some sorts. And I want to, if you are a black woman listening to this and you're like, do you know what? I don't want to listen to 25, 30 minutes of me go on about everything that I'm going to talk about. You already know because you've seen the title of this episode. If you don't want to do that, it's cool. We'll catch up next week. I don't want you to have to sit through what could potentially be traumatic again for you all over again. So if you need to just log off, if you need to deuces, do exactly that. I don't really care. Come back next week, because I can't lie, this episode is going to be heavy. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be deep. And yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say. You'll see for yourself. So I think we should just get into it, shouldn't we? Okay, so for my first honourable pick, I know I said it's been a tough week in Britain, and it has. But actually, I'm seeing a thread that moves between nations, particularly in this week. And so that's why I actually want to start in France, and I want to talk about my good sis Aya Nakamura. And I hope I said that right, because it does sound like a tongue. But Aya Nakamura is the focus of our first honourable pick. So if you don't know who she is the babe that did okay, I'm gonna sing, guys, don't laugh. She did oh ja ja na 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 ja ja. That's her song. I feel like everybody knows that song. Very like big summer anthem. So she is, you know, would I call her like the Beyonce of France? Maybe not. I don't really know. But she's a superstar. She's talent. Like, she's incredibly talented. She is, according to statistics, the most listened to French speaking singer in the world at this moment in time. So she's not a small deal. Like, she's a big boy in this game, in the French game anyway, Sha. And obviously France have got the Olympics coming up, Paris 2024. I love the Olympics, you know, so I can't wait for that. But there was conversation this week about Emmanuel Macron, who's the president of France, and he was throwing out names of people he could potentially see, opening up for the opening ceremony at the 2024 Olympics. And he threw her name on the table. Bear in mind, just a suggestion. And when I tell you, people lost their marbles at the suggestion of Aya Nakamura representing the country at that level and so publicly. And so she was attacked incessantly, both online and in real life. There was a far right, I want to call them terrorists, but they are a political party. They're called Natives. Ironic, if you know, you know. But yeah, and they attacked her incessantly. They booed her name at like election rallies. They drew up posters and spread it around Paris, and then they jumped online. And of course, I've already spoken about how X or Twitter, or whatever you call it, just anybody can say anything, and the truth doesn't even matter, or offense doesn't even matter. Just say it, Sha, and Elon will have you. And so they jumped on X and they badgered her, they attacked her, and at the crux of their argument was the idea that she's not French enough. Actually, it was two things. It was that she's not French enough and she doesn't represent the French language. We can go ahead and dispel the second one because, as I've already said, she is one of the biggest French-speaking artists in the world currently, and we're talking globally. Like, there's artists who have reach nationally. She has reach globally. And then their first argument about she's not French enough to represent us, I feel like, and maybe this is the chip on my shoulder, maybe it is because of everything that's happened this week, but I feel like that's a really sophisticated way of saying she's not white. And in some regards, I hear that because she's not white and she does not look like the majority of France. We're not talking Paris, we're talking France, right? She doesn't look like majority of them, but that should not disqualify her from representing her country in that capacity, because by all means and circumstances, she is French. Okay, she wasn't born in France, but raised culturally as a French person, speaks the language, benefits their economy with all the music she makes. What is it that distinguishes her as not French? Her colour. Again, could massively be the chip on my shoulder. I don't know. I'm not, listen, if I have a chip on my shoulder, I will admit it. I'm not perfect. But it got me thinking, and it really opened my eyes to something that I see quite a lot anyway, which is this idea that people do not have an understanding of the distinction between race, ethnicity, nationality, culture, and there's a real conflation of all of these things. And so because people don't have a firm understanding of what each of those things mean, they form their own criteria in their mind of what it is to be a particular thing. And when people don't match up with that, they begin to exclude or include people. So in the minds of the far right French, Aya Nakamura is not French enough because of the colour of her skin. But like I said, she holds French nationality. She speaks French, culturally was raised as a French woman. So why do you get to determine who is and who isn't, particularly in a day and age where multiculturalism and colonialism has resulted in varying colours, varying races, all still being able to sit under one nationality? I think there's a real privilege that the countries that colonize people, so the British, the French, the Belgium, is that English? Anyway, there's a real privilege that they possess in regards to creating a metric of Britishness and Frenchness, etc., and judging others by that metric, but conveniently forgetting that there is a whole history of colonization and of abuse and of torture that means that your metric is not accurate. They conveniently forget that. And I think we have to be honest in saying that in this modern age where multiculturalism is never ending, there is going to be a conflation, or not even a conflation, confusion, shall I say, between all those different things, like so race, culture, what's it called, ethnicity, nationality. There's going to be a conflation because things are so complex with where we are as a society. I think about these white yardies who have the gall to get on, Beyonce's internet and tell us that they're more Jamaican than X, Y, and Z because culturally they were raised Jamaican. And when I really get to the crux of it, I'm like, I can't dispute that too much, because actually, if you were born and raised in Jamaica, despite being white, culturally you are Jamaican. So who am I to, I'm not Jamaican anyway, but who am I to disqualify you from Jamaicanness because of the colour? Like, there is a real confusion here. And I think the sooner we all accept that everybody has their own definition of how they define themselves, whether right or wrong in our eyes, they're still going to have it. I think that's the sooner we'll be at peace, to be honest. I think we need to stop trying to force people into metrics that we've created for ourselves, because it's never going to work. But what does not need to happen is the abuse being thrown at Aya Nakamura because she has created her own metrics of how she defines herself and it doesn't match up with your, there's no need for that. And I think, again, we shall see in the rest of this episode, people are so quick to like hurl abuse at black women unnecessarily. It's okay. Take it easy. Okay, so for my second story this week, we're back in Britain, and that is where we shall remain for the rest of this episode. But of course, I can't believe this is the second time I'm coming on this podcast to say rest in peace to another black woman. But I, of course, have to start this honorable pick by saying rest in peace to Samaria Ayanle. I think she is Nigerian, so I think I said that correctly. But Samaria was a 19-year-old SOAS student, and this week they recovered her body from a body of water, and that is after she had been missing for 3 weeks. I think in addition to everything that happened this week, just felt like another like blow. It felt like another like punch in the stomach, and it's just incredibly saddening. And I think what's also not even saddening but more so frustrating is the circumstances around her death, and not even necessarily that it could have been avoided, but that more care could have been taken. So a quick rundown of how everything unfolded. So she, like I said, was studying at SOAS. She's studying Japanese and art history, and she was last seen on February 22nd in the morning outside Heracom. And so later that evening, the police found the body by a body of water. They tested it, but there was nothing in that moment to confirm that the body belonged to Samaria. Now, obviously, she's gone missing for a few days, so her friends and her family begin to flag it. They first flag it with SOAS, and I've been reading a lot of like the commentary around it, and the consensus has been that SOAS did not take it seriously, and they didn't do their due diligence in supporting finding this student. There's all hearsay, but there's also been reports that people were putting up posters on campus and those were being taken down. And so they flagged it to the university first. Obviously, after number of hours, you have to flag it to the police as a missing persons report. They flagged it to the police, and I mean, I was seeing it all over social media, like, where is she, where is she, where is she? And then this week it was discovered that the body that they'd found on the evening of the 22nd was Samaria. I have said time and time again, I don't believe in politicizing death, just because it is something that is so, I mean, death is one of those things I don't understand at all. But it's so, like, life is so precious. And I hate when people like come and do think pieces and threads after somebody's just passed away. Like, let's all just have some decorum. But there is clear evidence that there was a lack of duty of care when it comes to Samaria's case. Not even necessarily from the police, because I don't really know what happened on those sides. I'm talking about from the university, for colleagues and students and family members to flag that this person is missing and has been missing for weeks, and for nothing to have been done, but also not only has nothing been done to like deliberately not support the search. It's a lack of duty of care. Like, that's your student. They're under your supervision. They're under your care for the duration that they're doing their degree. And it's just very, very strange that they wouldn't support in that way. But then to come out, because I saw they released a statement when it was revealed that the body was Samaria's. They released a statement in support, sending their condolences, giving their assurance to the student body. But again, not that they could have prevented it, but they could have been a consistent force in the search. And so I think at the core of this is just a lack of duty of care and a lack of diligence, or like a casualness with being diligent to the processes that are in place to protect students. And even when I just said black woman just then, I was like, oh, should you say that? But actually, there is you can't really ignore a pattern. Let me broaden it out to black people in general, because there has been a trend where black people are going missing and then turning up in water, beside water, in the woods. Blessing Olusegun, Richard I don't know how to say his surname, guys, I'm so sorry, Okoregri. Now, Samaria, like, there is a very consistent pattern here, and those are just 3, but I know that there are way more. And I do although as much as I itch a bit to say like black people, because should we make everything a race thing? You can't ignore patterns. Like, come on, you can't ignore what is very much a clear pattern of black people going missing and the due diligence that is required to find them or to even assist the families. Like, I remember when Richard was missing, his mum was very much adamant that the police did not give us the support. They did not take the complaint seriously. They did not take our worries about his safety seriously. And again, I keep saying, not that it could have prevented anything, because we do not know, but there's a distinction in the gravity and the importance and the dedication given to the cases of black children who go missing versus everyone else. And I really, again, kind of itch to make it like a black versus everybody thing, but these are the facts. Like, we can see it in 4K. I also think at the core of this is the issue of value. Like, there is, again, I'm kind of trying to be politically correct here and not wanting to alienate certain people with my words, but there is a pattern here of white institutions, and I say white institutions because every institution in the UK is designed by and designed to benefit white people because they are the majority. Nothing wrong with that, because they are the majority. But what is, and kind of very vaguely similar to what I was speaking about on the issue of diversity, equality and inclusion, I don't have an issue that these institutions are aligned, wait, let me take that back, are designed by and designed to benefit white people. When they're designed to benefit white people alone, that's where the issue lies, because again, we're in a multicultural society, and so I can appreciate that they make up the majority of this country, but inclusion again says, I'm going to accommodate you, I'm going to bring you in, I'm going to create processes and systems and structures to, or that are specific to maybe your way of life or things that you may deal with that we don't deal with. For example, Richard was a sickle cell patient. There was a lack of diligence and a lack of duty of care to accommodate for that in that process of finding him. And so I think at the core of this is value of life and value of black life in particular. It's not, but they're still, anyway, not to offend anybody, but they're still searching for Madeleine McCann, my guy. Lati Tipwe, they're still looking for her. But you report a black person missing and it's give it a few seconds, like they'll show up, don't worry, it's dismissal, it's don't worry yourself, like. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we can call everybody a racist, but it speaks to where people subconsciously place value and who they place value on, if that makes any sort of sense. So it's a frustrating thing to see happen over and over and over again. And it literally is a matter of life and death. It literally is. And it's just incredibly sad. I'm not going to lie. Like, it's just sad. Like, how do you even, well, we're going to get into it. Of course, our main story for this week is Diane Abbott. I shouldn't laugh. And it's not funny in the slightest. Making this episode has actually made me somewhat sad. But we were always going to talk about it and she was always going to be the main story. So if you have been living under a rock, I live under the rock of ages. But yeah, if you've been living under a rock and you have no clue what has been happening, Frank Hester, the main person in this story actually, is one of the Conservative Party's, the Parliamentary Conservative Party's top donors. He's been buddies with all of these prime ministers. He's been donating for a very long time. And they are saying that he's donated somewhere in the £10 million region to the party. Comments that he made in a meeting in 2019 came out this week. And they were about Diane Abbott. And they were, again, I'm trying not to laugh because, okay, something you'll learn about me. I laugh when I can't make sense of what's going on. Because the comments that I'm about to read could make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense that somebody would find that much vitriol and pull it from their heart. So these are the comments he made. I'm going to read it. He said, this is not even funny, but I'm struggling not to laugh because it's so stupid. He said, it's like trying not to be racist, but you see Diane Abbott on the TV and you're just like, you just want to hate all black women because she's there. And I don't hate black women at all, but I think she should be shot. I think she should be shot. Is everyone mad? I'm getting mad all over again. What's going on? Anyway. Yeah. I don't want to repeat some of the things that I've said online and whatnot, but there's so many layers to this thing. On a very personal level, I feel very heavy. Like I feel very, and I think frustrated is the best word to use for me right now, because we've always had, suspicions of what I said previously, that there is less value placed on black life in this country. We've always had our suspicions. We've seen it here and there. We've heard stories within our community, but to see it play out on a national stage and to see it in 4K and to still have people debate it, it's messed up my head, It's messed me up. I've been so heavy and so frustrated and so flabbergasted all week because I cannot comprehend how this is up for discussion, especially where this is not one vague, inconspicuous comment. This is not like, oh, can I touch your hair is so, it's like a light, and it's not one inconspicuous comment that you can maybe say, oh, they had good intentions or maybe they didn't mean it that way. This is one of the most racist things I have literally ever heard in my life. There's no cutting it. There's no slicing it, however you want to slice it. It's in there, black and white. And it frustrates me to see that even though it's right there, it's still up for debate in the minds of some people. And that tells me and reminds me that actually, it reminds me of exactly what Diane Abbott said last year that got her expelled from the Labour Party, which is that there is a hierarchy of racism, and that you, as I've said previously, you cannot be racist towards Jewish people. I wouldn't condone that either, because that's rubbish. You shouldn't be racist to anybody, but you can't be racist to Jewish people and survive in this country, because they will destroy you. But what you can be is racist to black people, to black women, and you get off scot-free. Because the fact that this is even up for debate and it's even a contentious point and we're arguing about, is this a racist comment? Oh, but did he really mean it? Oh, but what are we discussing? I don't understand. And what I'm seeing is that depending on who the recipient of the racism is, it's always up for debate. It's always up for interpretation. There's always another way around it, or let's hear both sides of the stories, or let's move on and just accept the apology. But I guarantee you, if I read back that statement now and replace black people with the word Jew, YouTube will block me. YouTube will shut me down, because it's unacceptable to hold such a statement, not only in your heart, but then to verbalize it. The ironic thing here is that Diane Abbott's comments that actually many people have labeled her a racist for, we're seeing play out right now in real life. A very quick addendum as well, because I've seen a lot of people talk about her competence as an MP and like, oh, she's dumb as bricks, and she's put all of that aside. That is not relevant to the conversation. If we want to talk about competence, let's talk about the millions of people who lost their lives under Boris Johnson and Matt Hancock's mishandling of the pandemic. That is incompetence. And I'm not saying she's a perfect MP. I don't know. She's not my MP. But what I am saying is, when we bring issues like competence into the discussion, we're finding ways to justify that kind of language. Theresa May is massively responsible for Grenfell Tower. Do I think she should be walking on the street and be shot at? Absolutely not. There is no justification for that kind of language. I'm getting vexed again. And I need to mitigate that. But point number 2, and what makes me sick to my stomach the most, is the fact, and I did say this in my TikTok, so I am kind of repeating myself, but it's the fact that people would use this for political gain. It's the fact that Rishi Sunak and Keir Starmer and David Lammy, I'm not getting my foot off your neck as well, you weirdo, they would use this to score political points in an election year. And I have said, if you have listened to any of my episodes, something I say quite frequently is watch how they behave in an election year, watch where their energy goes and where their energy doesn't go, and watch how they maneuver and use certain situations for the benefit of themselves in order to get vote. And that is exactly what they did this entire week. So the comments came out, I think, on like Monday. It took Rishi Sunak 24 hours to respond, and I'm sure they dragged him by the singlet because he did say it was racist and wrong, but he still can't say that about Lee Anderson. We talked about that in episode 10 or 11, maybe 11. And then Keir Starmer and David Lammy, it took them 48 hours to respond. My hypothesis is that they were waiting for Rishi Sunak first to come out, because you know that they're up his behind, and so they tend to mimic a lot of his language anyway, because Keir Starmer is a Tory in a red tie. But their delay in responding to these accusations, not only these accusations leveled, not accusations, they are threats, let me say, leveled at somebody who has served her country and the Labour Party for 36 years. Their delay in doing that shows me again that there's lack of value for Black life, but their concern was not actually her safety. Their concern was not actually her protection, which they were preaching about a couple of weeks ago, because a couple of weeks ago they were telling us that we need to calm down on the protest because it's putting the safety of MPs at danger. If you remember that, they were saying that. But their concern wasn't Diane Abbott's safety in this moment. So they've done a complete U-turn, or they're hypocrites. Like, they've been incredibly hypocritical in their response to it because they know that politically it's not advantageous for them. What the commentary from the Labour Party has been shrouded in is in an attempt to paint the Tories as the bad guys and to present themselves as a better alternative for Black people off the back of this. And it's insane to me that they would even do that, because again, sort of like I said about politicizing death, I think there's a time and place to do everything. And we don't need you to comment and condemn the comments in one breath, but then say, oh yeah, but come and vote for us. No, let the issue at hand be the issue at hand. That's number one. Number two, the irony of the whole thing is that Diane Abbott was expelled and pushed out of her party, yes, for comments she made, but largely because of the racism she suffered at the hands of your own very party. So how you can condemn another party for being racist in one breath and present yourself as a better alternative, meanwhile the very person at the center of this debate left your party because she experienced racism, is beyond me. It's convenient for Keir Starmer to demand an apology and to paint the Tories as racist, which I'm not debating in the slightest. It's convenient for him to do that though, whilst also not acknowledging or apologizing for the racism and for the misogyny that was found in his party in a report he commissioned. I said it a few episodes ago, he has not addressed it. He swept that thing under the rug like a sweeping sweeper. He has not addressed the fact that there was WhatsApp chat about Diane Abbott being sent from Labour MP to Labour MP, making fun of her, mocking her. He hasn't addressed the fact that there was a moment where she had to go into the bathroom in the House of Commons because she was crying because the attacks on her from within her own party were so bad. Didn't address the fact that she was lambasted for drinking a mojito on the overground. Didn't address any of the racism within his own party. But because the heat's not on him, it's on the Tory party, he's manipulating it in whatever way he can do to gain points. And then I saw that he had the gall and the temerity to now start requesting money from Labour members because he said, oh, the Tories are being funded by a racist. You can fund us. We want our funding to come from people who have morals. So why don't you fund it? You're trying to make money off the back of this? Are you insane? Has everyone lost their marbles? I'm getting mad. You're calling people to send you and your party money off of the back of an incident involving somebody you kicked out and somebody who suffered within your own party. What's going on? Maybe I'm speaking Chinese or I'm speaking in tongues, because what's happening? That is the most foul and disgraceful thing I've ever come across. I can't. And now they're talking about they want to reinstate the whip for Diane Abbott, aka basically bring her back into the Labour Party for 6 months, but then she can't run as a Labour MP. So what are you reinstating the whip for? Again, political points to bring about the appearance of, oh, we've got her back. We don't stand for racism. You're a dirty liar. You are a dirty liar. Oh, and another thing, this is my last point, guys. They had, I mean, it's mind-blowing me even now, like, and this is what I made my TikTok about. Diane Abbott at Prime Minister's Question stood up 46 times to address a situation concerning her and was ignored 46 times by the Speaker of the House, who should not even be in his job anyway after the stunt that he pulled a couple weeks ago with the Palestine vote. But anyway, so people asking me like, and saying like, what is the issue that she wasn't called on? Prime Minister's Questions is, again, I always say it's quite immature, but it's ping pong basically between the ruling party and the opposition. So Tories and Labour. But the Speaker of the House, who is supposed to represent impartiality, is supposed to open the floor to all the other parties. So SNP, if you watch it, you know, they always get their moment. The Green Party MPs are always called on, and Diane Abbott, as an independent, has the right to stand up and ask to be called on, particularly because this is a situation at which she is the centre of. And so for her to have stood up 46 times and to have been ignored by the Speaker of the House 46 times is so sinister and so degrading and so indicative of how there is an erasure of her personal experience from it. Like, the conversation is no longer about her safety. The conversation is about how can the Tories and the Labour Party and the SNP and all these other parties leverage this to win political points and to win voters. And my hypothesis is that because the black vote is in some ways always guaranteed to Labour, they are not, their focus on this is, oh, anti-Tory, as opposed to, we need to protect this black woman. We need to ensure her safety. And so I'm done ranting now, but I am angry and I am frustrated. And I think adding up, I don't know what it was about this week. Nakamura in France, there was news about the murderer of Eliane Andam that came out, but he didn't plead guilty to murder, but he said he stabbed her. Samaria Ayanle, add that with Diane Abbott. Just all of this all literally happened within the space of 5 or 6 days. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to just watch, or even on the periphery as a black woman, and see in 4K the gaslighting, the erasure, the lack of care, that, like, just to see it all play out. Yeah, it's really, like, heavy is the word. Like, somebody actually texted me during the week and they were like, one of my good friends, she was like, sis, I can't, this is a lot right now. Like, not to be paranoid, but it feels like a lot. And I'm like, bro, I can't even give you anything because I completely agree. I completely relate with how you feel. And so I just feel like there's a general grief and like rage and hopelessness when it comes to prospects being a black woman in this country, even on a really transparent level. Like, I'm struggling to manage that rage that I have, even as a person of faith, as somebody that I know is called to love everybody and show the love of Jesus to everybody, including the people who hate the guts of people like me, and including the people who want people like me to be shot dead in the street. I'm struggling to manage that and navigate all of that, but it is what it is, isn't it? I guess we live and we learn and we move, because that's what we do, innit? We move. Like, what more else is there to do? If you keep complaining, they'll say you have a chip on your shoulder, you're race baiting, you're this, you're that. So just gotta keep moving, man. But yeah, really deep week, really just a lot. It's all a lot. Just in what, like, just give us a break. It's a lot. That is the end of our episode. Yeah, I'll see you next week, hopefully for some lighter, more fun stories. But Please remember to like, to subscribe, to comment. I always want to hear your thoughts. Follow me on social media, and yeah, we'll be back next week. So I'll see you later.